If your middle schooler melts down over small things during school, like for example, you ask them to start math, they burst into tears, or they snap at you, or they shut down completely, and you think, oh my goodness, this subject isn't even hard. What is going on? Well, what's going on is they're not emotionally regulated enough to handle the work. Not because they're difficult, but because there hasn't been this connection yet today. So let me show you why about 15 minutes of connection before school starts makes everything easier. You don't need a better curriculum. You don't need a better schedule. We need connection. I'm Marina Joy. If we haven't met yet, welcome to my channel. Feel free to look around, but finish watching this video first. I homeschooled three daughters right through middle school, through high school, while I was working from home. And I spent years like tweaking and trying new things, ways to fix days, to make them smoother, make them better, figure out how to make the curriculum better, how to make better schedules, how to have better structure. But even with all of that, I finally realized the one thing that mattered most, and we're going to talk about that. So the real problem is you wake up, you get your coffee or your tea or whatever, and you think, yes, it's time for school. Okay, let's get to it. Maybe you do a little morning basket, maybe you do some read aloud, maybe you just jump right into the subjects. If you've got multiple kids, maybe your morning is kind of like this mishmash of everybody sort of coming and going and grabbing breakfast and finding their stuff, and there's no connection. Now, connection doesn't mean, well, I sat with my kid while they did their math and that's connection. That's teaching time. So what I'm talking about is actual connection. Connection that helps your middle schooler's brain feel safe, to feel connected, to feel like you're on their side, you've got their back no matter what happens, whether they understand the stuff or don't understand the stuff. They need to feel that it's a safe place to try new things, that you're their safe person, that no matter if the learning is challenging or easy, you're going to get through it together. Now, there's research from attachment theory, and Gabor, Maté, and Gordon Neufeld talk about this in their book, Hold On to Your Kids. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. It is a fairly dense book to get through, just as a warning, but it is pure gold. It makes the argument for connection with your kids and why that is so important during these early adolescent years and even into the later adolescent years, why parents matter and why they need to matter more than peers, why that parent connection is critical, paradoxically, for developing independence. But I won't get more into that book right now. However, highly recommend it. So connection is this context for growth. Your kid is going to grow and develop and just really expand into who they are when they feel connected to you. It's kind of this paradox, like I said. When your middle schooler feels disconnected, even when they just haven't connected today, their brain goes into this mild, like, stress response. And they can't work as well because they've got this stress response. Not necessarily panic, but they just feel unmoored. You know, as if they're a boat at the dock and somebody has undone the rope and there's a chance that they're going to be floating away. There's not that security there. When they're in that state, everything seems harder because they're trying to get some connection and they're having to do that or think about that, even though they're maybe not consciously thinking about that, while they're trying to do this difficult math problem and it's not working. And so then they come clawing for attention. Then they're interrupting you when you're working. Then they're doing silly things to get your attention because they need that connection. So we can prevent a bunch of that stuff from happening with a very simple tweak to your schedule. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to connect with them at particular points throughout the day, but let's talk about this first morning connection. So can you give them a hug in the morning? Maybe match their tone. So if you see them crawl out of bed, or they come crawling out of bed into the kitchen, their hair is like a disaster and they're kind of blurry-eyed, and you say, "Good morning," that's not going to work. That's not connection. I did some training with this guy named Vin, and he talks about matching energy levels. And I wish I would have known this when my kids were in middle school, but I didn't. I do now. I figured out a bunch of stuff from trial and error, but maybe this will help you now, and then you'll have smoother mornings. So when they're crawling out and they're, bedheaded and kind of foggy, then match that. Then you can just look up and say, "Hey." And you think, well, that's not infusing any cheer into the morning. But it's certainly not infusing any cheer in the morning when you're all like, "Hey," and then they're growling at you, and then you get all like, "Hey, what are you being all disrespectful for?" And then first thing in the morning, you're at each other. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but if it has, you're not alone. And if it hasn't, keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. That's great. So what we want to do is we want to connect, and that can happen in a couple of different ways. I'm going to give you 3 ways to do connection time, starting with tomorrow. What to say, what not to say, what to do if your kid resists. But let's see how this isn't just like this isn't just like quality time. This is, we're going to do things, say, number 1, side by side. So if they're eating breakfast, you might sit there. You're not teaching anything. You don't have a big conversation topic going on. You're not correcting. You're just there. You're present. And they might not be thinking about anything. And you might say, "What are you thinking about today?" You're not going to say, "Hey, did you finish your reading last night?" You're not going to say, "You need to work on your attitude." But you could say, "Hey, how are you feeling this morning?" And they might say, "Oh, fine." Okay. So you're just there. You're just listening. There's just no agenda. Option 2, maybe they are a bit sparkier in the morning and they want to do something fun together. Like, do we have to start with math? Can we just draw something? Can we play a quick game? Can we go outside? Doesn't matter. You're just doing something that they enjoy and you're connecting. Now, this wasn't necessarily something that we did, but if your kid likes to be out and active, this could work. Or take a little drive. Maybe it's like you get up and on Thursdays, you have a little date with them and you crawl into the car and you head over to, well, we're in Canada, so Tim Hortons, and you go grab a coffee and a hot chocolate and you drive home. And it's not necessarily a time to have a big conversation. It's just like some connecting time. Now, at first, they might be a little suspicious if you have been the kind of person that has always asked them, "Okay, what are you doing? Well, how did that go? Are you finished this? Giving instructions, all of that stuff. Then when you start saying, hey, I just want to sit with you, they might be a little suspicious and go, okay, what's going on here? What is the, like, what is underlying here? Why are you being weird? And then you could just say, I just wanted to hang out for a few minutes before we start. A couple days in, they might start to relax. A couple weeks in, you might start noticing that school is starting calmer. Like you just start with a calmer tone to the day. And then as the day goes on, remember I talked about matching energy. Well, their first energy might be kind of low, but by noon they might be like bouncing off the walls. They might be wanting to share memes with you, and then you want to be laughing and holding back from asking pointed questions and just being present. Put a timer on if you have to. They don't have to see the timer. It's just for you. I know I had to bite my tongue a lot. I had to like pay attention to the clock and go, okay, I'm just going to sit here and not micromanage for like 10 minutes. It's a thing. Parenting is hard. Homeschooling is hard. Connecting with your kid, it takes intentionality, but you can do it. It's totally worth it. Having that time with no agenda. And when you do, the day goes smoother. Remember, their brain needs to feel safe, and that connection makes them feel safe. So then when you're asking them to do their math and you're sitting there with them and you're working it through, they're feeling safe in that connection. They feel your presence. You're helping them regulate. So now, the first video, we talked about getting good sleep. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and watch it, and how that is helpful. And then this connection piece, now we're getting sleep and then we're connecting. Next up, we're going to talk about, like, what about when they just have the wiggles? They cannot stop moving. They're fidgeting. You're not sure if they're listening. You're pretty sure it's not defiance. You know you've got the connection bit. Their body needs to move. In the next video, I'm going to show you why, like sit still and focus doesn't actually work. Even if they don't have ADHD or if they're neurotypical, it could be that they can't sit still either. And we're going to talk about what to do. So go ahead, there's a link somewhere around here, and I will see you in the next video.